Hi, it's Craig Metrowich for VideoCelebrityNews.com, and I have got the honor and privilege of now giving you the uncut, extended, a little bit more detail, high definition interview with Lily Geertz and Arnold Geertz. So to see the intro, which I'm very proud of both of you, because we had a 20-minute intro, was worried a bit about the signal.
Longest
Please,
intro I've ever done.
probably the longest intro you've ever done. Please go and watch that on Facebook.com/Metrowich. Let's go straight into the questions, first setting the tone. Lily was discussing with us her experiences with the children and how the practicalities of those experiences and challenges have affected what she does now, which is almost like a calling, and it affects businesses, but more importantly, it affects potentially every child in South Africa as a starting point, Africa and the globe. Yeah. So Lily, let's flesh out now, some of the technicalities on it. What's the science behind what you've researched? What's the practical side? How's it all come together? So my question is, how's all your experiences come together now?
So I want to make it very clear that I'm not the expert. I had an experience with my adoptive son. I've had an experience with my domestic son, and those components, through information that was provided to me through experts, has put together the whole platform on creating enrichment education in the less privileged areas. But the interesting thing I found, that irrespective of dealing with the lower income or a middle upper class child, the bottom line is that we all in some ways the same. Yeah. And understanding basic concepts that works for all of us enables and enhances every single one of us. So one of the things that I found was that there's 3 different brain profiles: the auditory, the tactile, and the visual learner.
Can I pause there? Mm-hmm. Guess what? I'm also learning out of this. I'm stoked. Okay. I thought I knew most things at 52. I kind of know a few things here and there, but now I'm going to have to listen intently. All right. Okay. I hope you can translate later.
I'll draw my pictures.
We'll draw pictures.
Okay, but I'm serious now. This is great. I love to learn. So I'm all concentration now.
Okay. So by understanding that we are all unique and that we don't, there's not one fix for everything or everyone, and just understanding, respecting that component, it's amazing how you can take 3 different brain profiles, accommodating it, and getting 100% engagement that impact your end result.
You see, so okay, let me bring that to my thinking from a layman's point of view, and I relate to my child, is if I'm not aware of that, I've got a huge disadvantage. Right or wrong? If I wasn't aware about the 3 different profiles, then I would look at my child and I would judge that child in the wrong way, not realizing that's one area. The other area is a little bit weak maybe, but it's doable.
Judging from your background and your perspective, which may not necessarily be the same personality as your child's.
Correct.
And the thing is, we also judge everyone else by those same principles. My perspective, the way that I see the world, and not taking into account that your profile is entirely on the other side of that spectrum, and even though we see the same world,
yes,
we see it very differently.
So in my understanding is that practical example is when you ask people colors, somebody will say that's pitch black. The other person says no, but it's dark blue.
Right.
And then you go, but hang on, okay, what is the color on the tag? Kind of you got to look at that and you go, and we're both wrong. It's actually dark grey.
That thought has always tickled me pink. The blue shirt that you've
got. Is that a good example?
Is it the same blue that I see, or how blue is that blue to you or to Lily?
It's the same with coming in, just part of my intro, being a business coach and inspirational speaker, is like the happiness thing. I've often been asked, Craig, if you've been through these massive traumatic experiences where I've been financially very wealthy, lost everything twice, had to restart, how do you stay sincerely, authentically happy? And then I go, but hang on, can't you see the happy side of it? And then they go, but what do you mean by that? And I say, but I start with counting my blessings. So in layman's terms, that's gratitude. Attitude of gratitude, fine. But I sincerely start my morning with, I'm alive. Now let's go to kids. It's the same thing. If you judge your child by your vision, let's say you're a depressed person, you see the negativity, you see him playing outside as unsafe, because maybe that was a bad experience for you. Instead of understanding that your child should have a different viewpoint.
The greatest cause of unhappiness is judging happiness in other people by what you see on their outside.
Absolutely. The perception of happiness versus the reality is ask a person, are you happy internally? And they stutter, they battle to get back to you on like, yes, I am. And then I say, well, what makes you happy? Because that's quite cool. And they'll say, I'm in love. And I go, how's that feel? You know what I mean? They're like, when last was I in love? And then they go, but hang on, but you travel. You got this glamorous lifestyle. And I go, but hang on, if you travel as much, by the way, on the record, if you travel a lot, there's a sacrifice to be made.
Of course.
You know?
Of course.
Practical example, you're away from your family. You know?
You're away from your home.
You're away from your home.
Your own bed.
Even though you love what you're doing, there's a sacrifice to be made. Mr. Arnold gets. I'm calling you Mr. How cool is that? Nice. It's like, how's that feel? It's the first time. Thank you for welcoming both of you into your home. And Arnold, I said earlier on live, is that seriously, in my mind, you're a celebrity. Okay, I'm a fan of you as a person. I watched you on Super Sport for many years. I used to be in my youth quite a good runner, by the way. You still are a good runner, so I'm quite envious. Let's talk about how your sports, commentating, the family, and then bring that to business. Because I've seen you in action. By the way, Arnold and I have officially worked together. We worked with a client, which was amazing.
It was incredible.
So I phoned him and said, look, please treat me as a client. I would like to have you join us at an event. And we booked him for 2 events. And you got glowing testimonials. And that was so cool for me too, because when you refer somebody, it's
your reputation's on.
Yeah, it's awesome when the client says, and the people attending was phenomenal. But I want to share with our audience the power of what you did with the power of words. He got all of us to close our eyes, and then he did a walkthrough of like your race. I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that. But what's the technique around it for business people? Share that with us.
I teach people to visualize. And visualization is a very important part. When you were preparing for this interview, you visualized it in your mind. You did your homework.
Many times.
Yeah. So
many times.
When people out there in the business world, when you go for a meeting, if you've got a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, you've run through what you expect is going to be on the agenda, and you think, well, when he says that, I'm going to say this, and then she's going to add that, and you visualize the whole thing. So in my business visualization exercise that I do, I make people run the Comrades Marathon in about 7
and he literally does that. I'm serious. I've experienced this. Heart palpitations. I think some people might perspire.
I have had.
Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I've had people afterwards say to me, "I feel like I'm done. I'm finished. I'm physically tired because I do it with audio. So I make you wake up with the alarm clock, the heartbeats, the buzz, and the announcing at the start."
Well, I'll tell you now, Arnold Geertz, in 30 years that I've not only been presenting but been at many presentations, I found it unique. It was refreshing, but it wasn't trickery. Most of these things I've been to, it's all bells and whistles and glam and razzmatazz and, you know what I mean, fireworks.
I bring that back to, and I did it that day with you.
Yeah.
God forbid that it should happen to you, but what happens, have you visualized what happens when some idiot runs up to your car with a 9mm and hits on the window and says, "Get out of your car"?
Yeah, look, that's the other extreme of what could happen.
But you've got to visualize this because Lily referred to our armed robbery in this very home.
Yes.
I had visualized what I would do if that should happen. And I handled it almost exactly the way that I visualized it because I had thought about it before the time.
If it could happen or should happen, how would you approach it? Yes.
Don't we drive like that? Shouldn't you be driving defensively all the time when you drive?
Yeah.
If you're riding on a road that is narrow, if you're thinking cars coming from the front, if he swerves, where am I going? You've got to be ahead of the game. And that visualization exercise is extremely powerful.
I mean, I'll bring that into Dion Jabert, race car driver that I recently interviewed as well. And he also said is like, the thrill for him was seeing everybody actually in the rearview mirror as he was rushing ahead. But at the same time, for him to be world-class in what he's doing, you would have to be able to know the next corner, probably 3 or 4 corners ahead.
You're ahead of time.
And he said, if you think about the practicalities, going around the track doesn't change per se, right? The corner's still there. The conditions do change.
And you and your reactions change because you get tired.
Absolutely. And that's the difference between winning and not.
here's the beauty. A pilot of the new airplanes, the 737s and the 747s, told me years ago that these days they set the airspeed meter to be 10 to 12 to 15 seconds ahead of present time. So that
amazing
they
to understand
know
that. Yeah.
what's coming.
So the predictability factor, you're right. I mean, how do you spontaneously react? It's very difficult when you're traveling, let's say, 900 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
How nice to be ahead of the game, though.
Yes.
And that's what happens when you visualize something.
Understood. Lily, visualization, business, the kids, how you're influencing kids. I want to understand, you mentioned nutrition earlier on, the 80-20 principle that you apply. Flesh out a little bit about that. I'm also listening at this as being a dad. Can I apply some of this? When I go home, how should I apply some of it? So give us just some practical examples. Craig, we did this, and this was the result. Our audience would be, I think, very keen to know how's it practically being applied and what was the end result.
So we live in a society where food is very processed. And if you look on labels, trying to understand how to read the labels, I think that was one of the biggest components that enabled me to make informed decisions. That understanding that in the first 5 years, 70% of a child's brain capacity is developed. If you understand the brain needs good hydration and healthy fats. We're in a society.
Okay, so good hydration, that makes sense to me, and healthy fat. Now that's why I paused. Okay, because I think I would probably not think fat per se. Okay, so healthy fat, I get it. Okay, very important to understand. No, I get it.
For instance, olive oil, etc.
Yes, yeah. So, and include that into the diet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you understand, and if you look at Mediterranean diets versus Western diets, you'll see that we don't have learning disabilities and ADHD and all those in your Mediterranean diets, because they always consume healthy fats, your raw nuts, olive oils.
You're right. They have breakfast. They have salads.
Yes.
In fact, I'm reflecting on when I've travelled abroad. I go, wow, where's the breakfast?
This is breakfast. Yeah.
Correct. Makes sense. Once again, there's logic to it. Makes sense.
The interesting thing, though, is they always have a raw vegetable with their fats. The reason for that is there's a live enzyme in your raw fruit and vegetables that's like a creepy crawly that cleans your gut. It is like a creepy crawly because with all the processed foods that we are exposed to, we create plaque in our colon, and if we then consume foods, your body cannot absorb the maximum nutrients in the body. So in the townships, I can't give my poor kids fresh fruits and vegetables every day.
Correct. I understand that.
We make sure that we have a food state that we provide the kids, and by doing that, we are able to give kids exactly what the body needs in the first 5 years in order to excel. So with Kina coming from a fast food diet, high fizzy drinks, not a lot of water, by just changing his diet over, he had real serious eczema issues. Within 6 weeks, understanding proper omegas. And when I say proper, people don't understand the EPA versus the DHA. And you get omegas and you get omegas. So, just like you get homemade bread versus conventional bread that has a shelf life. I think
if it's got a shelf life of, let's say, 3 weeks. I mean, we never ask ourselves, how can that thing?
How good is that?
How can it last 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Because if you made, you made it with almost the same ingredients but at home, how come within 2 days you got to eat it?
After 3 days it starts going off.
Because the reality is that people live busy lives. They don't have time to bake bread every morning. So we as a society has also put pressure on the
speed factor. Eat quick, convenient. Yeah.
So I understand why they do it. It doesn't necessarily add to our well-being. So it's the bottom line for me is it was information that enabled me to make informed decisions. There's never right, there's never wrong. It's information that you need to see what works in your situation that has enabled me in order to do the work. when I did the pilot with my domestic son, I couldn't start telling her what he should and should not be eating.
I'm sure,
But-
because you'd have to, you're offering guidance versus.
It's impossible.
I get it.
Exactly, but what I did add onto his daily diet from a Monday to a Friday was a whole food smoothie that was made with 130 vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and medicinal food, which gave a child that was constantly sick for the first 2 years of his life. He was healthy and strong for 12-month cycles, had growth spurts, never ill. That glazed donut disappeared within the first 6 weeks, and it's purely just understanding and going back to the basics of what we need without having to go extreme.
So just from layman's coming to there, Anna, you can help me there as well, Anna, is that let's take our sport background. I know when I was competitive, all the coaching I got was, you can run fast, you've got the legs, but if you don't do the other things like sleep, to rebuild your immune system, like proper deep sleep, like you go, but I don't need sleep. Yet you do need sleep.
Yeah.
And then also from an eating point of view, is exactly that is, you cannot be at your top performance unless, the computer terminology is called GIGA, garbage in is garbage out. Yet our bodies, for some reason, we think garbage in means, I don't know, it'll process it into something else. So what you're saying, and the logic is there. I think we all actually know the logic is there are many ways to speed up the process of any child at any level. So it's not about whether you're rich or poor. Am I right? You must correct me. And the access to this information is actually freely available. So you're not telling me there's a complete new methodology. It's revolutionary. So that to me is a very big give.
Here's the principle that went up for Lily and I when we saw Kina and the changes. The brain works exactly like a computer. You made the analogy, and that really is the analogy. Is if that computer is properly fed, the rest of it falls in line, because that is what guides this skin, blood, the skeleton, the exoskeleton, the muscles. It's all dependent on whether this is fed properly. If that is fed, and we think
I think even hydration, they say so often,
water.
If your kid's got headaches, before you think it's a migraine or something else,
water.
Just ask how often have you drank today? Especially when they're playing the whole day.
That's one of the problems.
Without any liquids.
Our water in South Africa, people tell you it's good. Our water is not as good as what we told. In Johannesburg,
is there a lot of chemicals in the water?
I don't know. 8
the
times the allowed amount of chlorine in the water in Gauteng. So go down to the swimming pool and drink the same thing. That's part of the problem. I'm convinced, Lily and I both have this pet theory. We base it on absolutely nothing but hearsay and how we feel about it.
Yes.
But I'm convinced that a lot of the illnesses that we're experiencing today is because our water is not good.
Because water is for everybody. If I like me, even I love coffee, caffeine. Let's admit that. But I will always have coffee, and then I'll have a decent glass of water as a habit. But as you said, if the glass of water is full of chemicals, the coffee is probably safer. Because at least I know what's in the coffee. It's boiled, and I know what, I would use the best coffee available. So it makes sense that the chemicals could affect you.
Very much so.
Okay, let's go now. I want to go on a higher level and inspire our audience. We set the tone on some of the challenges. I want to go into competing because you've had the privilege of competing. Comrades. Let's talk about comrades. Bring it into presenting because you've done some other types of marathons in presenting. And as far as time, we've got about 3 or 4 more minutes before we wrap up. So, Arnold Geertz, highlights.
Oh.
I know there were many, but Craig, I want to. If my kids were sitting here, we're around a fireplace, and they said, "Dad, come on, man, Dad, what was the highlight?"
1992 Olympic
Apart from
Games.
meeting Lily.
And meeting you. 1992 Olympic Games, without any doubt.
Okay, go ahead.
Because
the Olympic Games,
1992 Olympic Games.
Why? Because I wasn't there, you see. So I want to be behind the scenes. Why was it such a hard?
More than 30 years to make a comeback to the Olympic Games. And in my career, I never thought that I'd experience broadcasting the Olympic Games. So there I was.
That is to anybody in a career.
It's a highlight. Yeah. So there I am in the studio in Barcelona with Martin Locke, an icon in South African broadcasting. And I get quite teary when I still think about this today, believe it or not. And what is it now, 25 odd years later? And we expected South Africa to come out at the end of the alphabet because the teams come in according to the alphabet. South Africa
okay. So you'll be sitting there going, okay, I'm not up yet.
third up.
Yes.
Afrique du Sud, because they go according to
Afrique du Sud.
French.
I get it. Yes.
So Lockie and I look at each other like this, and I took his hand under the desk and he took mine, and we both held on for dear life because we were going to ball. And we were blown away, and we both said to each other, I cannot believe that we're finally competing at the Olympic Games. It was one, and then the other highlight that went with it at the Olympic Games was when Ilana Meyer got her silver medal, and I couldn't help myself. When I got her in the interview area, I bent over and I kissed her and I said, congratulations. And I still think to this day, Ilana Meyer's sweat drying on my cheek while I was interviewing her. It's a highlight.
It's an interesting highlight. I don't think anybody's had a highlight of an athlete being sweaty being a highlight. So I'm sure that's a first.
Highlight for me, promise you.
You know, and so looking at that and this is what I love about, let's say, sport. If people have never done sport, and I encourage, let's go back to the kids as well. All parents, please get your kids into sport of some type. And it can just be walking, by the way. Okay, a lot of people make the mistake. It doesn't necessarily have to be running. Am I right?
It doesn't matter what it is, as long as they're out there having fun.
Correct.
Having fun. And they don't have to be good at it. As long as they're out there having fun. Crossing the midline. Learning to catch a ball.
Learning the sportsmanship of competing.
Walking barefoot. And it doesn't matter
running
what
barefoot.
It is.
But
so
how often did you run barefoot?
As a kid, always.
I didn't even know what running shoes were until I think standard 9 or matric. I'm
like that today. I love taking off my shoes. First thing when I get home is I want to feel the earth.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a super.
And also, it's healthy for you, by the way.
Lily knows competing through and through. She's unbelievably competitive. So,
Okay, time-wise, we've got another 2 minutes to go. Let's talk travels. Because that's something we haven't mentioned in the live interview, by the way. Let's talk travel, because I've also traveled a lot. Lessons learned in our travels. One place you'd love to go back and why? Travels-wise.
I've been privileged. I have family in Los Angeles, London, Denmark, Canada.
Look, we're very close. I don't know if you know that. We are best friends.
Family.
Okay, we can go anywhere. How cheap can we go now? We can travel together. I mean, we are close now. Let's face it, we can make it work. And what would be the highlight? Like, it's that, I'll give you an example. Hawaii. Everybody expects me to want to go back to Hawaii. I have been there. I actually wouldn't want to go back there. I prefer Cape Town for my type of sport of windsurfing, and the wind's stronger. There's a whole lot of reasons. I'm not saying it's not a great place. It is great. But versus what I've experienced. Interesting enough, I love to go back to New York. Not for too long. Okay, for I was there 4 times. I'd like to go back for a week or 2. And I'd experience it now at this stage of my life differently. I don't see different things. I'd like to go back. So let's answer the question. What do you think? Where do you want to... Look, he's here. You're going to put him on the spot. Okay. What can we save? What can we save towards?
His wallet.
Put it out there.
To be better.
Put it out there.
For me, it's not one specific place. I am a foodie. I like to always find out their traditions, their foods, the way they eat together, the cultures. I love sitting and just observing people. And sometimes by just doing that, you see the rich culture that
you experience the culture
every place you go. And I believe that was the university of life that has given me that inner strength to just never give up, because we're all so beautifully unique and we don't have to be the same in order to function together. Coming into a South African perspective, I always say this with anybody that I'm going to interview, and they're like, I can see they're a little uncomfortable initially. And I talk like body language, like we're really close. For those people who can't say, we're close. I mean, we are seriously close. But I can see that a little bit, their body language. And then I go, when you travel, like I give an example, when I went to Hong Kong, there's the ferry, right? Ladies and gentlemen. I have never had so many ladies surrounding me simultaneously, followed by the equal number of guys. But I mean, they are like this. Yeah. And the interesting thing is nobody feels awkward. No.
It's, it almost feels like it's a professional gathering to transport
each other across the thing about personal space.
Is it a Western thing?
It's a Western thing, yeah. It is
because, I get it. By observing, let's go back to the eating and the traveling. You're so right. If you travel, you experience the food. There's a language in food. Yes or no?
Yeah.
And not only that, you see how they eat their food and enjoy their food. Different to like guzzling it down. And then you appreciate we have all the love for wine, olives, olive oil, salads, chocolates, dark chocolates, trifle. Maybe that's making me hungry.
I tell you where I'd like to go back.
Yes, Arnie.
Scotland.
Scotland. Why Scotland? I didn't think you mentioned Scotland.
No, I felt at home at Scotland. Scotland was like the Free State. I think of myself as a Vrystater, a Bloemfontein boy.
Yeah.
And Scotland was exactly like a Free State. I felt at home. I've got Scott in me. My dad's mom's surname was Young. So when I got to Scotland, I felt there was a part of me that felt at home. Home will always be South Africa. Always.
Yes.
But there's a part of me that I thought when I got there, I can breathe here, and beautiful people, just the most
they're friendly. Because I've never been there, so
Vrystaat people. They would come. They would welcome me into their home, and the way that they warm and they
gasvryheid, by the way. I mean, in English and Afrikaans, gasvryheid.
It's beautiful.
It's just such a beautiful word. I can try and translate for international viewers. How about this? The biggest, hugest, warmest hug you could experience.
Yeah.
Would kind of maybe get to gasvryheid.
Homeliness.
Am I right? Homeliness.
Yeah.
So my name's Craig Metrowich, in the home of Lily Geertz and Arnold Geertz, two wonderful people that I'm proud to know. And I really appreciate your time.
Thanks,
you guys are special. You're close to my heart. And thanks for giving up your personal time. And I'm going to share with a parting thought, a positive thought, that if you enjoy this message, share it with everybody. Right?
Please do.
Share the love, share the warmth, share a hug, share the food. Share the food.
Yeah.
Get our kids out there doing healthy exercise. Remind our kids about sportsmanship when you compete. Like, Arnold, you've competed.
And bless them and love them. That's the other
Bless them and love them. And, I'd like to just add to this. I need to add. I'm 52 today, 27th of July. Hear this. Happy birthday. And my daughter was the biggest birthday present I ever got. Because today, before I came through, running around, I got to tell her that I love her. So my message to everybody, if you haven't told anybody after watching this that you love them, then frankly we failed. Am I right?
Quite right.
So go out there, share the love. Craig Metrowich for VideoCelebrityNews.com.
Bye.
Bye.